This is the Viltrox 24mm 1.8, and this is the Sony G Master 24mm 1.4. Today we're going to test this thing out and see how it compares to this, because this is $1,000 less than this. Also, can you see the frost? It was 3 degrees, or 2 degrees, and there's a slight wind from behind me, so beautiful day to test lenses. Full disclosure, Viltrox sent this lens to me, but they're not paying for this video. They don't get to see this video before it's launched, and they don't have any input into it. So these opinions are my own. Now we're on the Viltrox 24mm 1.8 at f4, because before I was filming on the Sony 24 to 105 at f4, and it's really bright. I don't have any filters for this lens, so we are going to test out the focus breathing, and see how it does. If it performs decently at these temperatures, I'll be pretty impressed, because it's really, really, really cold. I don't know how long we'll last out here, but we'll get enough pictures and some video clips in order to compare for sure. But let's, we'll go over, I think we'll go over in that building there where the porch is. It's a good place to test out focus breathing, because you can test with the lines. I know the 24mm G Master has a lot of focus breathing. Frankly, all of the G Master primes have a lot of focus breathing. And if you don't run one of the newest cameras with the newest firmware where it will take some of that focus breathing out electronically, yeah, you're kind of stuck with it. So let's go see how this lens does. Beyond being able to test, because it has some nice straight lines and stuff, which will also give us an idea of like distortion and things, it's darker in there, so I might actually be able to get the lens closer to 1.8, which will give us a much better idea of how well this thing focuses, because at f1.8 your depth of field is extremely shallow. And look, there's at least one other person who is crazy enough to come up here with me. I don't know why he keeps saying yes, but you know, whatever. You know,
crazy people do crazy things.
That's right. So we'll get this set up here with the lines and test the focus. Keeping up. See that right there? You see that, this beam here? If I step out, that won't hardly move. So now it's in focus. And if I come back in, it focuses on my face. But see that? So very little to no focus breathing, which is fantastic if you're a video shooter and you don't want your video to change as you get closer to objects. Switch to the 24mm G Master and show you what really terrible focus breathing looks like. How's that? Better? So you see how much this changed over here? Changes a fair amount. And that's focus breathing for you. Now, let's go do some testing on photo quality. I'm really curious to see how much vignetting the Viltrox 24mm 1.8 has compared to the 24. And so fortunately there's a whole lot of white surface here that we can test and see how much vignetting is. I will turn off all of the in-camera corrections and just show you the absolutely normal unedited photo from both of the cameras, and then we'll look at the edited versions as well. Somewhat as expected, the Viltrox has a fair amount more vignetting. You can deal with it in post, especially in photos. It's fairly easy to deal with. Video's a little harder, but the in-camera corrections work pretty well. So next thing I want to test is distortion. How much distortion does this lens have compared to the 24mm G Master? For a size comparison, like the Viltrox is a fair amount smaller. On the other hand, It is not weather sealed, so not ideal to be out here today like this. I mean, there's no rain or snow or anything like that, but it is cold. And that is one other thing that I dislike about it, even though I do like the lens overall. It's metal. So holding it in and changing a lens or holding the lens, adjusting the aperture ring, anything like that is really kind of sucks on a day like this, because I have to take my gloves off to really be able to, you know, do it. On the lens itself, you've got an aperture ring that's declicked, so you can go all the way from a little below, it's f1.8 all the way up to f16. And yeah, it produces some nice images. I think the bokeh's okay. Where this has got the same, you can go, you know, f1.4, so a little better in low light, actually 2/3 of a stop better in low light. And then you can go do the same thing all the way at automatic, and then you can use the camera body to adjust it. And then the other thing is you can click or declip this aperture, and you have the autofocus manual focus switch and a customizable button on the lens. From what I can see on the camera screen, for $400, this lens is actually a pretty good lens. Is it going to compete with the G Master? No, but you are paying for what you get. $1,000 more. I would hope it doesn't directly compete. But if you are looking for a budget, I think this one's a good option. So let's go back to the studio. We'll check out some of the photos and talk about some of the other good things and the weaknesses of this particular lens. Viltrox has done a fantastic job with this lens. The pictures coming out of it are nice, they're sharp, they're well rendered, the coloring looks good, and while the autofocus is a little slower than Sony native lenses, it was good and it worked every time that I tried it. I think if you get into really fast-paced situations, sports shooting, which I don't see you really doing with a 24mm anyway, then you might have a little more struggles. But if you can see these pictures here, it actually produces some really nice photos and really nice renderings. I really enjoyed shooting with it. And it's nice to be able to get a lens with an aperture all the way open, as wide open as 1.8, to be able to do lower light stuff. Lower light photography, anything like that is going to be really nice. Now, as I said, it does have a couple of downsides. The autofocus is a little slower to, catch and grab and snap to where it needs to be than a Sony native lens. And the weather sealing, the fact that it doesn't have a weather sealing limits what you can do with this lens in an outdoor environment, which is primarily what I shoot. Aside from that, the lens performed really well, even in incredibly cold conditions. So while this lens takes a little bit of extra post-processing to adjust, the in-camera corrections, at least on the A7S III, worked well for video and photo modes. And then any work in photo work that you do with Lightroom, it's a piece of cake to really correct and fix for this lens. There are, of course, links in the description. If you're interested in checking this lens out, they're affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra, but they do help me do what I do. If you're interested in other budget lenses for Sony that are great, I put together a playlist right here that will take you through some of my favorites. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I will see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.